So folks, I thought we would look at the 40s again, because in the 40s, in the war, well, late 30s in the war, all the ladies' magazines showed you how to make your own headwear, because if you didn't have the coupons or if you wanted something nice to wear, they used to show you how to make things fairly simply from items that you could get hold of. So I thought what we would do here is this cute headband. Now what you'll need is a headband that is at least 1 inch wide, really, because we're going to have to sew to it. And make sure you get a headband that is an adult size. We don't want a child size one. I do sell headbands, and I can sell you headbands if you need them. We will also need some felt. Excuse my sore throat. I'm using navy blue for this headband, and I'm using navy blue millinery felt, which is vintage, but you can use acrylic felt, just acrylic felt that you can buy in craft shops. You don't have to buy anything fancy. It was just that I happen to have it. And I'm also going to be using navy blue bias binding, just cheap bias binding. You can use ribbon, but I'm using this. And I thought I'd have a little bit of veiling, and you only need a tiny bit. And the other things you need are a needle and thread and a little dab of glue, because what we're going to do is we're going to glue this to the headband. Now what we're going to do is we're going to wrap it around so that we've got something to stitch to. And what I've done is I've pulled this, so I've stretched it so that it won't show any of the white headband through. So what you'll need to do is wrap it. Oh, it would help if I didn't have arthritic fingers and can wrap well. You'll need to wrap it around the headband like this all the way to the end, making sure you cover all the plastic. Okay, so I should just carry on wrapping. I did put glue at the beginning, but I didn't show that, which was a bit naughty of me. I put glue at the beginning, and I should put a little bit of glue at the end, so that it all sticks down and is covered up. So there we have. So we have our headband ready wrapped and ready to go. So we put that to one side. Now what I'm going to do with this felt, and as I say, you can use acrylic felt. You don't have to use, you know, expensive felt for this. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to need some straight pieces. Ooh. So should have got a shorter thing in here. I'm going to cut this. Cut this straight first, and there, and there. So we're going to cut some strips of the felt. So I'll get my scissors. There's no hard and fast rules with this, so depending on the width of your felt or what you've got, you just go with the flow. I very much go with the flow and see what happens. So I'm going to cut a couple of strips. Now obviously if you've only got 12, this is slightly wider than 12-inch felt squares, so you might need to cut more strips than I've cut. So I'm going to get rid of the chalk. There we are. Right, now with this one, I'm going to fold over. Okay, fold it in half. And I'm just going to pin. Along. Don't ever feel that you can't experiment with things. Now, I know that's not always easy because you don't have the money to buy loads of stuff and experiment, but you know, if you can, use something cheaper, use a bit of fabric that you've got. Right, now I'm going to cut this in half because these are going to be too big. So I'm going to cut it roughly in half. It doesn't have to be exact. Now I'm going to thread my needle, which I've already done. And what I'm going to do is just put a running stitch across so that I know that it's held together. Fasten off. Okay. Just have it like that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to cut into that groove at equidistant, well, about as equidistant as you can make it, down to where you have stitched. So you're making a frill. So I've cut into that and made one of those frill things you see on legs of lamb. So what I'm going to do is pull it up with my thread that I still have, and I'm going to stitch it as one. So I'm going to join the other side like that. Do the same with this one. So what I've done is I've got two flattish sort of rouleau pom-pommy things there. And now I want two that are slightly different. So although I'm going to fold this over again in the same, let's just cut this in half before we start. Just be simpler, wouldn't it? Make it up as you go along, Sarah. Do the same again, but this time I'm not going to pull it up. So I'm going to stitch along. So although I'm going to cut like I did for the other one, and be careful not to cut through your tacking stitches, roll it and fold it. It's not very easy to do when I'm trying to show you. Wish I'd chosen a lighter colour, but there you are. So now this time it's a poofed up one. And what I'm going to do is stitch underneath. So I'll rethread my needle and just do that now. And the good thing about these sort of hats is you can, or headbands, you can pretty much make them as big or as small as you like. You could have made this double the width. You could, well, it's sort of free rein really, but it's nice because this was what we used to do. Well, not me, I wasn't alive in the 40s. Nearly, but not quite. You made do and mend, and this very much was that ethos. You haven't got the coupons, you haven't got the headwear. Let's make something at home out of your father's old felt hat or a couple of old shirts or whatever. And I think nowadays we're becoming to realise that was sensible ideas. So what I've done is I've just stitched over and over. And now I have a little pom-pommy one. So I've got my flat ones and my pom-pommy ones. So I'm going to make another one of those and then we'll carry on. So now I have two that are sort of flat pom-pommy shapes. And I have two that are upwards, sticky uppy shapes. I can't describe. Now I've cut another strip. And what I'm going to do is chop down this strip in, I don't need it this long actually, I'll chop it in half again. I forget that I'm using millinery felt and not acrylic, so you'll probably only have about a 12-inch or 6-inch width. Doesn't have to be exact, this choppy and actually it looks better if you can get a bit of leeway to it, bit of interest. Right, so this one's just been chopped, this hasn't been doubled over. But now what I'm going to do is fold this over into a tight knot and just get my thread. I'll put a knot in the end. No. It's a knot now. There we are. So I'm going to roll this over into, stitch every few rolls. There we are. It's all secure, because if it starts to come apart when you put the headband together, you'll be really mad with yourself. So better to stitch lots than not enough. Oh. Right, so now we've got a sort of a floppy pom-pom for the middle. Okay, so we've got all our pom-poms that are going to go on our headband, and I've got two little pieces of felt left over, and I'm just going to cut some little leaves for the side. So cut a leaf shape, and then cut in at diagonals, leaf shapes. Now what's going to happen is I'm going to attach these to my headband, and I'm thinking, shall I have a little bit of veiling? Now I don't want to make this a big veiled thing, so what I'm going to do is I've already caught up this edge of the veiling, because if I just put a flat piece on, when you put it on your head, it won't go anywhere, it won't fit around your face. So just put a pin in there on there. And I'm going to have it about there. So I'm going to gather it up here. So it will just skim the face. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to gather it up on that end and stitch it down. A nice neat edge at the bottom of the veiling, so you've got a good edge, otherwise you've got to cut it to make it look good. So what I'm going to do is thread my needle in here and then just up through the veiling. And then when I get to the end, I should poke my needle through there. And let's do another round. Right, so I've got my veiling. I'm going to stitch it to the headband. And then I'm going to trim it afterwards. So I'm going to, this is the nice thing about the fact that I've covered it with bias binding, is that I can stitch it to the top. So pull it out, pull it where you want it. Give it a quick stitch all the way along. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch all my little pom-pommy things to it. So I'm going to stitch them in a manner to which I would like to see them. So it might be like that. My leaf might go there. So I'm going to stitch them all down. I might do it like that, or I might do it like, you have to think about it. Anyway, stitch them all to your headband carefully, and it'll all be fan-dabby-dozy when you're finished. Right, so I've sewn all the little pom-pommies on the top, and there they are, my little leaves, and I'm going to steam that, and I'm going to show you what it looks like on a head. But it's been a lot of fun to make, and easy as well, which is good. Hope you've enjoyed it.